This is a bit of a reunion for President Carter and me. I was fortunate enough to interview the president at the White House back in 1980. And those were kind of tough times as well. You were facing the Iran hostage crisis and you had some economic issues that you were dealing with too. And today, the economy is having an impact, and a serious impact, on almost every American family's life. What advice would you give to President Obama, who did get this stimulus package agreement today, but what advice would you give him, number one, first thing you have to do to get us back on track?
Well, first of all, tell the American people the truth. Don't ever try to mislead them, and then you won't be disappointed that way. But keep your campaign promises, and I think what he did promise was very enlightened. It was obviously attractive to the American people, and it was the right thing to do. He's got the finest group of economists and other experts on the economy that you can get. I think that his promise to reduce taxes for 95% of the American people is included in this package, which is very good. Instead of having giveaway programs for 8 years to the richest people in the nation. And I think his plan to create 33 million new jobs in the next 2 years is a glorious goal to set, and I think he's gone a long way in bringing that about. But he has to have the backing of the financial experts, the bankers, and he also has to have the cooperation of the American people. And I believe he will have certainly the latter, and I would hope that he would force a little bit more aggressively, making the bankers come in line and not try to enrich themselves out of the suffering of the taxpayers.
Some of them were put on the line in Congress today, but the message to the American people, because so many people are concerned and facing serious issues right now, keeping their homes, keeping their jobs, just keeping their family going, education. What message would you have to assure the American people that things are going to be okay?
Well, I can base that on my own life's experience. I was born in the 20s, and I grew up as a young boy on a farm in the Great Depression. And that was a time when the unemployment rate in America was running between 25 and 30%. And I lived on a U.S. highway in an isolated place. We were the only white family in the whole neighborhood. And we had literally hundreds of people going by on the highway and in empty boxcars from the north that came down to get warm in the south, who had lost their jobs. These were college graduates, former shop managers, foremen, who didn't have any employment. And we didn't have any money. A grown man would work 16 hours a day for $1 per day. So we came out of that, because of the greatness of our country, the resilience of our people, and the fact that Americans are never willing to give up. And so we have to be patient, do the best we can with what we've got, cooperate with each other, and have confidence in the greatness of our country.
I'd like to take a quick look at a spectacular moment that happened at the White House just a short time ago, and this was when all the living presidents got together with the President-elect Barack Obama.
We had a very pleasant meeting. George W. Bush told us, first of all, that the meeting was scheduled because Barack Obama had requested it, and he was glad to accommodate that request. I would say that President Bush was very much laid back. He was quite at ease. Looked like he was kind of looking forward to going out of the White House and turning it over the problems to Obama. What Obama was more interested in talking to me about was what happens to a family like his in the White House, because Amy, our daughter, was about the same age as his oldest daughter now, and they wanted to know if they could live a calm and I would say normal life when you're the daughters of a president in the White House. And I told him yes. And we reviewed the pitfalls that can damage a presidency. One is not to have a compatibility between the staffs of the president and the staffs of a vice president, which are all sometimes competitive.
I do want to talk about your book, We Can Have Peace in the Holy Land. You say it is a plan that will work.
Yes.
Why is now the time, after so many years and years and years of conflict?
There's one generic question that I cover quite a lot in the book. I think the Israeli leaders, and I quote them, are realizing that what they have been doing the last 20 years is developing a one-state solution by occupying all the Palestinian land, so the Palestinians don't have a place for their own state, side by side, living in peace with Israel. If you take the area from the Jordan River all the way over to the Mediterranean Sea, if the Israelis have one nation there, then they are faced with horrible consequences in the future. There's already more non-Jews in that area than there are Jews, and there'll soon be a strong majority of Arabs. So they will be able to outvote the Israelis if things continue that way, which would destroy the prospect of a Jewish state, and that's the definition of Israel. Or either they have to expel them from the territory, which would be a terrible thing to do, or they would have to just accept living in a minority in an Arab state. So the two-state solution is now by default the only game in town, and Israeli leaders are now realizing that. The second thing is that the Palestinians are ready to come together. I met twice last year with the Hamas leaders, and what they want to do is to have unity with the Fatah, the other group in the Palestinians, and then negotiate a good agreement with Israel. And they have promised me and announced publicly that any sort of peace agreement negotiated between the Israelis and the Palestinians, Hamas will accept it if the Palestinians can vote for it in a referendum and approve it.
Now they would, they have said that, but of course that would mean that there has to be a Palestinian state.
Yes.
That the Palestinians are happy with.
Exactly.
And that is not something that many of the leaders in Israel seem to be willing to give right now. First of all, you've got 300,000 settlers in the West Bank, and many of them say they'll take arms if they're told to leave the West Bank.
I don't have any doubt that a vast majority of Israeli voters, and they've shown this for the last 35 years in public opinion polls, are in favor of exchanging territory for peace. And if there's a plan proposed to Netanyahu, helpfully orchestrated partially by United States involvement, and the Israeli people want it. In the past, Netanyahu has shown a great practical streak. You know, he'll go along with what the Israeli people want. But the plan has to be practical, and it has to be balanced, has to be fair, and it has to preserve the basic elements of what Israelis have always wanted. That is to live in peace, in security, without being attacked, and to be accepted in the international community by all the other nations that are involved. And this particular proposal that I outline in the book is supported 100% by every Arab country on earth, all 22 of them. As a matter of fact, by every Islamic country, which is 57 nations, even including Iran.
Unfortunately, our time is short, but you say time is really short to bring about this peace. President Obama has so many domestic issues right now. So what does he need to do now to get this ball rolling for a Middle East peace?
The first thing he needed to do was two things. One is to let the world know that on the first day of his tenure as president, that he was interested in bringing about Middle East peace. He did that. He made telephone calls on Inauguration Day to the key leaders in the Middle East, and very highly publicized. Secondly, he needs to appoint an envoy, a peace negotiator, who is balanced. That's a bad word for some, between Israel and the Palestinians, and he did that in George Mitchell.
You say it's a bad word for some because you say you have been balanced, and what you get for that is accusations of being anti-Semitic.
That's true. I have, by some leaders of the Israeli groups. But George Mitchell has been attacked by the same groups, and the accusation I made against him is he's neutral, he's balanced. And we're not accustomed, they say, to having an envoy from the United States that will look at both sides equally. But you've got to do that in order to have a peace agreement. That's what I did between Israel and Egypt. So I think that he has fulfilled those two requirements. And the next step, while the Israelis are fooling around with forming a new government, which is going to take a number of weeks, I think the United States, under George Mitchell and others, can start working out, first of all, a permanent ceasefire, one that will last a whole year or 18 months. And this is what Hamas has proposed, 1 year. Israel has proposed the same thing. They need to get together through Egypt. The United States can help. And the other thing is to start working on a reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah so they can form a unity government. That can be done almost independently of any sort of input from Israel while they form their new government.
Former President Jimmy Carter, it's great to see you, great to talk to you, and I know this is a mission, like a lifelong mission for you, so good luck with the book. And
I've enjoyed being with you.
Good to see you. Thanks.